Okay, so at some point,
AC's legends. Know where you'll find most of them?
the stream broke, but hopefully we'll be back.
Matters not where you're from. Matters not where you start. What matters here is the walk you walk. In Night City, the city of dreams.
Chick we're looking for is somewhere in this building. Probably crawling with the pendejos that kidnapped her. Eyes and ears open, all right? Speaking of which, got you a little something. Militech training shard. In case you need to, brush up on your dance moves. Down for some target practice in VR?
Militech? Jack, we're talking classified military-grade shit here. How'd you get it?
T-Bug. And our girl made a couple adjustments.
Why? Think she knows better?
Nah. Said it didn't suit her, style. You'll see what I mean.
Sure. Why the hell not?
Let's begin with basic combat training. This session will be recorded for subsequent evaluation.
So yeah, the thing I wanted to say earlier about the Lizzie's bar sequence, one thing that's kind of nice about the staging for the conversation with Jackie, like, first of all, obviously the modeling, the animation, the setting, all of that is great. I don't think anybody really doubted that this game would be looking really good. But one of the things that's kind of neat about the way that the dialogue goes, you get to be in close with Jackie during the conversation. You know, you get to see the details on his face, the lighting, and so on and so forth. And again, you know, a lot of the settings are turned down for the sake of the stream. I don't know if that was related to why this sort of fell apart earlier. But what I think is most interesting about it is the moment before the Arasaka, sort of the corporate security presumably come in, Jackie walks back. So, you know, obviously I was kind of taking a look around Lizzie's bar just to sort of take in the atmosphere. But what's neat about it is that because he moves back, your attention is no longer sort of focused sort of to that wall. It's a time where you're taking a wider look of the place. And of course, this is exactly the moment when corporate security comes in. So it's setting up people, you know, going in. Now, sorry, it sets it up. You're naturally going to be looking at the activity coming in, as opposed to sort of having a conversation and they sort of appear out of nowhere. Now, again, obviously it's a game. They do get to sort of control, you know, where you look at to a certain extent, at least during a sequence like that, where you're sort of forced to sit down and do the engagement. But it feels natural. And obviously in the case of something like a motion picture, where you're limited to the box that, you know, you're pointing in, you can make choices of lenses, you can make choices of where you put the camera, but in the end, the audience, everybody's going to be looking at the same thing there. It's just a nice little moment where you get to see what's going on, but you don't necessarily, you don't feel like you were forced to look over. It's just, you're like, oh, something's happening.
This course is designed to reinforce your fundamental combat abilities and hone your reflexes. The skills you gain here will help you survive, even excel on the battlefield. I will train you to be effective with firearms, to use stealth tactics to your advantage, and to hack into enemy networks. Because at Militech...
Militech can't encrypt for shit. But they clearly got drill and jarheads in their blood. Now, Station 1, you maggot! Move, move, move! Hope you're ready to bust ass through this fascist playground.
So I'll try and make this quick because I remember most of the details, but I seem to remember being bad at boxing.
Program. You know, a little warm-up. Yeah, I didn't think you'd find that too tough. What do you say we crank it up a notch? Not bad. But it's more realistic if... Quit standing around and take cover. You took a hit. Use a reanimator to patch yourself up. Head to the training area when you're good to go. Oh, look. Brought some chooms with him this time. You know what to do.
Not quite sure why why I reloaded there, but okay, this is clearly going to take forever if we both do it this way.
3 work, V. Stand on the platform and we'll move on. Hacking's the next item on the menu. Might notice I tweaked the course material a bit. This training module will teach you how to work a little hack magic on the screen to distract the guard.
I think you just let go. Nope. With the Cyberdeck installed, your scanner provides an additional interface for selecting quick hacks and their targets. Use distract enemies to distract the guard. Navigate the list. Oh, F is execute. There we go.
Corpo trash. Style over substance. Good. Now take him out quietly. All right, all yours. Take him out. Never smart to leave behind any trace of your handiwork. Especially the dead kind. Now pick up the body and hide it somewhere.
You can hide dead and unconscious enemies in certain places. Doing so will help you avoid detection by other enemies. This is one of the reasons I went for points in cool.
Okay. Now, try to take him down in one slick move. Think you're ready to try hacking some gonks in real time? Have fun!
Quick hacking allows you to take control of certain devices. Hold tab to activate the scanner, then aim at the concern. Press F to execute the camera control quick hack. More advanced quick hacks allow you to use the environment or enemies to your advantage. While in control of the camera or turret, you can still quick hack other devices and enemies. Hold tab to aim at one of the guards. You don't have enough available RAM units to use the detonate grenade quick hack. Breach protocol can be used to trigger network-wide effects. Use it now to reduce the RAM cost of all quick hacks. To upload the Ice Pick Demon, you must recreate its code sequence by selecting the characters from the code matrix. The characters you select will be visible in the buffer. Breach protocol always begins with the first row active. Select 55 from the code matrix. Selecting a character from the active row will then activate the column it belongs to. Select 55. The active area alternates between rows and columns. To upload the demon, you must recreate its code sequence in exact order.
Now, detonate the grenade.
Wah, wah.
See? Just needed to shut your brain down and follow orders. In true Militech fashion. Not too shabby. Militech's algorithms put you on a decent run. Got additional modules if you want to hone any other skills. Or you finish up, Delta out now. But remember, The street's not gonna give you any hints or second chances.
You completed the mandatory portion of the tutorial. Free to interact with the door to exit the
Need
the simulation.
a handwritten invite?
Or if you wish to learn the other gameplay features, check out the optional tutorials. So we kind of already learned stealth, but I don't think you get to
Right. So first,
skip.
let's shape up those stealth skills.
Enemies that are unaware of your presence will continue their routines. Pay attention to their behavior patterns and use what you learn to sneak around them. So that, the way that my head just turned is an example of the thing that the sequence at Lizzie's bar was able to avoid. Although I can see why in this case they treat it differently. When you enter an enemy's line of sight, their alert indicator will begin to fill. Find cover to avoid detection.
Find cover, quick. Nice, nice. Now, move slowly towards the exit. Stay out of sight. Nova, well done. On to the next area.
Keep an eye out for security systems such as turrets and surveillance cameras, which can trigger alarms to alert enemies to your position.
Now the same thing, only with the camera.
Hostile cameras that can detect you have orange scanning beams, while friendly ones have green beams. Cameras will detect you if you enter their field of vision, but they do not register noise. So I suspect I need to crouch. Oops.
Back to your training, recruit.
Suspect I need to crouch just for the visibility, but I could, in principle, run.
Nice work
once
today.
it's sort of out of the beam.
Just stand on the platform to exit the All right, some advanced combat techniques for dessert. Time to get down and dirty in close quarter combat. Take him down. But careful. Looks tough.
Enemies at a much higher level than you, marked with the skull icon, are able to free themselves from your grapple more easily. Defeating them is extremely difficult, so proceed with caution.
Okay, that'll do. Now maybe we find someone closer to your weight class.
Tap left mouse button to perform a fast attack. To perform a fast attack combo, press left mouse button while the previous fast attack is being executed. Hold left mouse button to charge a strong attack, then release the left mouse button to perform it. Continuously attacking your enemy will drain your stamina. Fast attacks and strong attacks have different stamina costs. Your current stamina is displayed as a yellow bar at the top of your HUD. Your enemy is in a blocking stance. Strike him to see how your attacks affect him.
Let's bump things up from easy to normal. This next fool can block your attacks.
Fast attacks will not damage a blocking enemy. Only strong attacks will break their blocking stance. Hold right mouse button to take a blocking stance.
Dull bit coming up now. Blocking blows instead of dealing them.
When you are hit while blocking, the attack will consume part of your stamina. If your stamina drops to 0, your blocking stance will break. Your enemy's strong attacks can break your blocking stance in the same way your strong attacks can break theirs. counter an incoming attack, press the right mouse button to block just before getting hit to deflect the attack and automatically deal the enemy a counter blow.
Now this fool loses his footing every time he swings. Use that. Get in there and land a counterpunch.
Ah! Double tap WASD to dodge in the direction you wish.
Ooh, I like that. V, want to see this fool punch in air next. Don't let him land anything.
Use all the techniques you've learned so far to defeat the enemy.
You've done well in mastering the way of the fool, young apprentice. I can teach you no more. Let's move on to melee weapons. Grab a sword.
The melee combat techniques you've learned can also be used with a melee weapon such as a katana.
Good. Now show me what you've learned.
You're equipped with a range of weapons and a cyber deck. You will now be able to face a mix of enemies whom you've already encountered in training. Defeat them however you choose. If I'm rebooting his optics, how's he blocking me?
Good stuff. Looks like you're cruising already. Hop on the platform.
Right, that's it.
Good luck, V.
So? Not bad, huh? Now we can get down to biz.
Will Kako give you any tips and tricks for the job?
I'm not your mother. Just do what I pay you for. It's easy work. Yeah.
Let's do this.
One of the challenges I run into with role-playing games like this is it's all voice acted, so it's a little hard to figure out
This way.
where to put the commentary. I am, of course, going to see if I can loot this garage. I'm also quite concerned about the problem I ran into in Lizzie's bar, so I'm starting to keep an eye on
Your movie.
the monitor a little bit more.
Target's Sandra Dorset. Target's biomon went mute a couple hours back. Suspected abduction. Target could have possibly flatlined already. Not sure you're in time.
We're in time, Bug. We. Sure you're on phones, but that don't make you any less part of this squad.
Squad. Charming.
Calm the hell down, both of you. Almost there.
Yeah, Bug. You focus.
Looking for 1237. Target should be inside, but I got 0 eyes on her biomon. Fingers crossed it's not too late. you? I hate this life or death shit. Hurry, try hacking the door. Think you can trip it on your own, V?
So one of the things I've always wondered about this section is if this was intended to be a tutorial, and then, for whatever reason, after the fact they decided to
Profile.
after the fact they decided to like add the formal Militech section.
Your movie. Are we fucking late? Is that her? Is that our target, V?
Sandra Dorset's protected under Echelon 2 corporal immunity. Our girl's top shelf. This one? Not our lucky gal. Let's keep looking.
Sorry, I didn't mean to hit. I meant to hit C to crouch, not.
Mira, eyes up. Pendejos ahead. Drop it quiet, V. These steps, V. Enemies watching. Nice. Could have done that better myself.
I figure the people who chomp up others for spare parts, it's okay to kill them as part of the mission. Cyberware usage and its side effects. Many people believe that we live in a time when impossible has become an obsolete term. Ripper docs can replace nearly every part of the human body with artificial implants, from your big toe to portions of the nervous system. My years in trauma team, however, have taught me that the impossible is still very much possible. Even now, as we enter the twilight of the 21st century, we, as medical professionals, have not been able to eliminate all of the side effects that come from incorporating cybernetic elements into our bodies. Of course, everyone is familiar with the mental disorder commonly referred to as cyberpsychosis, but it doesn't end there. Although advances in medical science for the greater part of a century have reduced the incidence to a minimum, cyberware rejection can still occur in a small subset of the population. Those unlucky few can experience a range of complications, but the following are the most prevalent. 1. Immune response. The body rejects the implant, causing scar tissue to continue growing to the point where it causes pain and inflammation of surrounding tissue, as well as possible interference with the tech's electrical circuits. 2. Psychological effects. Neurological implants have the potential to cause unpredictable change in the brain. Possible side effects include depression, apathy, hallucinations, and sudden increases in addictive behaviors, such as gambling. 3. Implant overdependence. Long-term use of certain synthetic body part replacements can change the brain's chemistry to make it accustomed to a particular type of implant. There are reported cases of permanent blindness after patients attempted to replace their Kiroshi optical implants with different models. In the face of these known risks, what should our outlook be as consumers and medical professionals? To deny ourselves cybernetic enhancements on the 0.5% chance that we could lose our vision forever, or gamble away our life savings at the casino? The clear answer is no. Cyberware technology has elevated human biology to the point where these what-if arguments serve against our best interests. The best advice I can offer for minimizing your risk is to read the technomedical profiles for all cyberware you intend to purchase before you install it. One of the things that's interesting, because when I first read this section, we weren't in COVID. But of course, one of the things you can think of in this is the idea of vaccines. And again, this is always a tricky one. I'm going to take a minute here just to get through the idea. I'm not going to pause the game at each time, but I know in my social circle there was a very large number of people who felt that vaccines should be mandatory. I'm actually quite uncomfortable with that idea because I think we have other options available at the moment. I don't know for sure, but I suspect that one of my acquaintances may actually be have some variation on, like some kind of a variation of anti-vaxxer, but not for the reasons that I think most people assume. I think it's more sort of they are, for lack of a better term, like the gentle hippie type. But obviously that still can mean that they're not necessarily going to that doesn't, like the negative outcome is still going to be occurring. to me, I actually think generally our policy is okay. Essentially, what we do is we inconvenience people who choose not to be vaccinated, and essentially that's kind of how you determine who is has a moral objection to or other sort of well-founded objection to the practice. And I suppose for kind of lack of a better way of putting it, like I sort of feel like my hope would be that we are sort of tolerant enough as a society and are able to incorporate differences enough that we're able to get the benefit of vaccination without necessarily forcing people to sort of cross those lines. It would sort of be the same argument you would make for a volunteer army. It is obviously necessary for a country to defend itself, and especially in Canada, the armed forces are not just there to participate in sort of peacekeeping operations or anything like that. They also help with floods, and in fact, inside of COVID, they were going into nursing homes and helping out there. Again, they help in many forms of emergency, not just the combat role that we tend to associate with the military. But clearly conscripting, especially conscripting someone who is a conscientious objector, I think most people would accept as morally wrong. And in fact, the preference would be that those who choose to serve are given the opportunity, but that we not impose that on people who would be uncomfortable to do so. So, again, I always feel the need to sort of clarify that, because again, I sort of feel like there's a distinction that needs to be made. My experience, particularly of the last week or so, is just generally on the internet, people are going to attack the worst possible version of what you didn't say, as opposed to actually deal with what you said. So the reason why I make this point, and you may reasonably sit down and say, it's like, well, it's not just for the population's benefit, it's for the individual's benefit as well. So why not force them to do this good thing, right? What exactly is the harm? And I suppose in certain circumstances we do take certain interventions. So, in the case of someone who's suicidal, we do things to prevent them from taking that action. If someone were to be starving themselves to death, we would be administering some kind of care to make sure that they didn't actually perish. So what's the difference here in terms of vaccines? Well, there is actually, it's rare, but people can react to vaccines. And I think the difference here is that if you force it on the population, to a certain extent, what's happening is a government is sort of assuming this responsibility to, obviously a minority and a very small minority, but essentially they're still accepting the responsibility for the harms that come to them. Whereas under a voluntary regime, particularly one under which we inconvenience as opposed to compel people to take the vaccination, it's a very different matter, right? So the worst case scenario, like if it's something that there's going to be a problem with, I suspect governments are not going to force people who will have a negative reaction to do something. But I think it's fair to say, I don't think we have identified every single case where that's going to happen for people. And so ultimately, I think if you are vaccinating an entire population, there are going to be people who are harmed because nobody knew any better. And again, the difference here is that it's a tremendous, it is still sad and it's still a bad thing when someone has a negative reaction. But obviously doing so voluntarily is a very different matter than being compelled, even though the outcomes might be the same. I just sort of think that there is a difference between the two acts. So the reason I point that out is, again, when we're talking about cybernetics, in this world, something that is largely beneficial, but there is that risk that you have. And, you know, again, read the document. It's kind of the same thing that everybody says, right? Read the information and make an informed decision. But, you know, the difference here, of course, is that it's hard to imagine cases of people being compelled to install cyberware. But the similar risk exists, right? Like, what if it happens? You know, somebody's got to be in that 0.5%, right? So, I don't know. For whatever reason, I think I might have even talked a little bit about this.
On your toes. More bodies incoming. They're almost on you.
These Reapers. Oh yeah, V, they're coming. Wait for your chance. Pick the prick off. Cabrones. Thick as locusts. Let's wait and plan a spree. Take one down. Just real quiet. Hey, grab the one closest. Let's take him. Suerte. All down. Limp meat. But probably not the last of them. Move on. Move up.
I don't have a shirt? That can't be right. Okay.
Behind you, V.
So I'm curious about this green thing. I'm assuming that's Jackie? Apparently I can't stealth take down this guy. Oh, here we go.
Sure. Вроде все в норме.
Okay, that was a lot messier than I was expecting, but I think there's a guy in the... Yep. So I'll grab the goodies after we deal with this guy.
Don't see any movement on the sensors. Looks like you got them. You're clear to go.
Shit, where the...
Look around. Gotta be there somewhere.
God, I really don't like the fact that they tell you to use crouch to to skip the dialogue. So I talked about this the first time I played this, but one of the things I really like about this environment is the loud music. Like it's, in addition to the fact that you're dealing... Did I just turn on the radio? In addition to the fact that you're dealing with incredibly, like, dangerous and unsavory people, you also have this really loud and, you know, and kind of grating music in the background. So it's the sort of place where you don't want to lose the fight, because you're pretty clear on what happens. Pain editors and mortality rates. The implant known widely as the pain editor is cyberware that reduces or even eliminates pain. It has enjoyed unwavering popularity for years among certain circles in Night City, the most devoted and arguably most valuable of which is Mercenaries. It is using the test group that Zetatech conducted the following research. The pain editor is a neural coprocessor that inhibits the signals sent from nociceptors to the parietal lobe of the brain, thus preventing feelings of pain in the user. Note, some models also reduce symptoms of fatigue. The beneficial elements caused by the pain editor are in some ways similar to the symptoms of hypoesthesia. Unfortunately, the writers researched all of this stuff, and I am left to hope I pronounce correctly, including greater resistance to physical forms of torture and the ability to ignore pain from severe wounds, which can allow the user to continue to perform beyond normal human limitations for a brief period. However, some studies have reported that the pain editor can yield a range of undesirable side effects. For example, in the heat of battle, some users are unaware of the severity of their wounds, which causes them to continue fighting without realizing that they are dying and require immediate medical attention. The statistics to support the theory that a lack of negative reinforcement may cause users to continue fighting when the rational strategy would be to retreat and escape death. Since 2020, the mortality rate of pain editor owners is above 60%. In this report, I addressed the question of how to better protect Zetatech clients from avoidable death while using our pain editors, and it ends the segment there. There's a, let me see if I can find it's different, it goes a different place than this particular story, or than Cyberpunk. But I talked about this on a different occasion. David Langford is a science fiction author, has a book of short stories that I like quite a bit. And I believe it's called Training. Yeah, and I think essentially this short story is about a kind of a combat unit that is regenerated, and in fact part of their training is to be killed multiple times so they no longer fear death, and sort of the changes that happen to the people as a result. So I see a little bit of an echo in that concept here. And again, like, it's not the one thing I always kind of wonder. I think mostly just because I'm just always on the lookout for how I may be misinterpreted now. But one of the things I kind of want to be clear on when I talk about this stuff, I also say this because I think there is a tendency now for everyone to sort of play, oh, there's nothing new, or, oh, I've seen it all before, or, this stuff isn't original or whatever. And I think it's wrong to think that way. I think there's creativity. I think there are new experiences that we can have, and I think there are new stories to tell. And I think it's something that how about I put it this way? Even if it turned out, like there's some secret status of the world that we can't see, but it does turn out that in the background, it actually turns out that there isn't room for anything new. It would still be nice to have the illusion that there is place for sort of innovation and creativity. I think it's a useful illusion, even if I were to be given irrefutable evidence that there will never be nothing new, that it's just simply a remix of existing ideas. So the one thing I'm not trying to do here is suggest that the writers of Cyberpunk have read all of the science fiction stuff I have. Although I think like the idea of the basilisk is probably something. This is another invention of Langford's, probably the most famous. I think it's fair to say that probably that's a very cyberpunk kind of idea, and it's one that I can see. I could see people being familiar with. There's more just this idea that, and like the other thing too, is one really good way to discourage, at least me, is, when I present something I'm kind of excited about, and then, inevitably someone's like, oh, so it's, and then, they do some kind of, the closest media thing that they're familiar with, which probably isn't actually related to mine, but just really deflates the whole, the whole thing. Like usually when I tell people an idea that I like or I'm excited by, it's usually because I want to share. And it's like, oh yeah, can you believe this? I've got, X, Y, Z, there's, and then we do this and then we do this. And just to hear, it's like, oh yeah, I've all seen it all before. You're just copying this thing. I don't know, like it's a bit of a bummer, right? So I'm not trying to do that here. But I think in these cases, it can be valuable to take a look at how similar ideas have been explored in other contexts. So, one, it makes sense that the scavengers are going to have a lot of medical documents, particularly with regards to cyberware, because this is their business, like it or not. This game is obviously very preoccupied with sort of our relationship to technology, particularly our relationship to cyberware. Obviously the stream was interrupted partway through, so this is in the earlier section. But there is also this, there's lots of skin, there's lots of flesh in the advertising. And I suspect that's going to be something that continues to be repeated throughout the game. At the very least, the parts I've seen definitely seem to be going in this direction. And again, that's not necessarily the same preoccupation of the training story, but there's at least enough overlap in there to sort of see two perspectives on a similar thought. And another example of this I would give as an example is what we talk about when we play Terra Invicta, which is that, again, not every alien invasion story is War of the Worlds. However, it can be useful to consider it in the context of War of the Worlds or other, science fiction stories. And sometimes the contrasts can make you realize things that you otherwise wouldn't have necessarily noticed about those kinds of stories. And so, again, I realize I'm unpacking something that maybe wouldn't have been an objection or wouldn't have been something that somebody wants to take away. But I do want to highlight that sometimes, the effort to mention other stories and other ideas or similar ideas expressed in other areas is largely to try and, well, number one, it's nice to give recommendations. But number two, it's to try and bring out some of these ideas to make people aware of them and the contrasts, and to hopefully give us a better understanding of and enjoy the thing that we're seeing more, rather than just sort of play the, we're so sophisticated that we can't be surprised anymore card, because that's a very dull way of looking at the world, in my opinion. Pay Us or Your Head Will Explode by Nightmare. Hey Choom, today is your unlucky day. You're probably wondering who I am. I'm a voodoo boy. Probably heard of us. Remember last time you hit the net? Yeah, me too. I hack your coprocessor and install a little surprise for you. Now do what I say or your head goes boom. I think 1,000 is a fair pay to keep your head. If you pay, I uninstall my surprise. If not, I blow up your head. I blow up the head of the person you love most first. And if you tell NCPD, I blow up your head twice. You have 2 days to pay, and I know you read this because I installed Spycam in your optics. We read it together. It's not a negotiation, Choom, so do not reply. Just pay and you will live. We have plans for cheap. Cyberware. Huge savings on discounted secondhand cyberware. Don't miss out. Today's deal. Plastic Sinskin, pink, hand size, medium, second gen, used 1 week only, near mint condition. Tech hair, green, shoulder length, luminescent, second gen, moderate use, occasionally flickering, faint cigarette smoke smell. Alloy feet, chrome, unpainted, men's size 8, first gen, light rust from lake water exposure, price reduction due to lack of owner records. Synthetic calf muscle, red. No casing, mint condition. 2nd gen retrofit capable with older joint models. Items go fast, so buy now. Continue following us for the latest on our best deals. Need someone to watch your back? Animals are alpha. Danger prowls Night City. Got a stalker on your tail? Hired iron out for your blood? Some freak giving you crooked looks and bad vibes. Or maybe you're just looking to pad your personal security. Animals got your back. Survival of the fittest, it's the only law that matters in Night City. You hire us, we show your enemies just what that means. We'll protect you, your home, your workplace, your property. Hell, we're even happy to knock on a few doors if necessary. Become the king of the jungle, choose the animals.
Flat out doubted we could be that sneaky. And it's not my favorite way to roll, but Nova anyway.
The day the tower fell. In early August 2023, a single event would change the course of history. Although it fell against the bloody backdrop of the Fourth Corporate War, the global media still fed on the story for weeks. And how could you blame them? A group of terrorists detonated a nuclear bomb, blowing Arasaka Tower to pieces. The terrorist warning came too late. Not all of the tower's employees could be evacuated. The blast itself killed and wounded thousands, while countless others died from radiation sickness. How did the biggest terrorist attack in the 21st century happen? Who was behind this catastrophe? To find the answers, we'll need to first understand the context of that era. In the early 2020s was a period of unrest for Night City, and anti-corporate sentiment was at an all-time high. In the epicenter of the city's lawlessness stood the Atlantis Club. It was seen as an island of resistance against the powers that be, primarily megacorporations like Militech or Biotechnica, though a special place in hell was reserved for Arasaka, the Japanese arms manufacturing zaibatsu that held the most influence over Night City. The kinds of people who frequented the Atlantis felt that corporations had hijacked the future and turned people into consumer slaves and ironically deprived of the two things that capitalism loved most, freedom and choice. These people called themselves edge runners. They positioned themselves against the corporate world order. They declared that their own freedom and opposition to the status quo. But deprived of any peaceful way to meaningfully change what they called the system, they reached for more radical methods of self-expression. And these people were no strangers to violence. Fresh meat, we won't forget. You're a dead man walking. From Victor to Blaze, you're fucked. If any of your lackeys show up here again, they're in for worse than a split jaw. That's not an empty threat. Try me, motherfuckers. Oops. Toys. From Gomp to Artyom. Got a lot of good stuff. Hand from Zeta Tech. Uses biosignature, but we ordered a jailbreak. Militech lock-on sights. Wonder where this gonk got it. Arasaka hormone regulator, no biosignature, and some other little curiosities. Optics actuator and cosmetic real skin. Was a cursor always this big? Okay, yeah, it can't actually take that.
Jesus fucking Christ. Think I got her. Got our target.
We make it? She alive?
About to find out.
V, jack into her biomon. Need to know what we're dealing with.
Jacking in.
This does not look good.
Sandra Dorset, NC570442. Traumatine Platinum.
Platinum? Shit. Trauma should have swooped in if she sneezed.
Guessing they jammed the transmitter, Sig. Looking at a hacked biomon, firmware reconfig, or a neurovirus.
Carajo, T-Bug. You ain't seeing this place. This is tubs, ice, hooks, and cleavers.
Scott Muncher's hack, huh? Got an idea. Check her neural port. Find a shard? Yeah, pull it. That'll be what's muting the biomon.
Found the shard. Removing now.
Check the biomon. Anything change?
Greetings, Sandra. If you are conscious, assume recovery position now. An emergency evacuation unit has been dispatched and is due to arrive at your location in 180 seconds.
Biomon claims trauma will be here in 3 minutes.
Your premium plan will cover 90% of the projected costs of your rescue and treatment.
Ay, pobrecita. Let's get her off that ice.
Jack, look sharp. Not done yet. Don't know who's out there.
Locked and ready, hermano. Your day.
Oh, fuck.
Flatliner.
B, need to know what's
Jackie,
going on.
air hypo. Fuck, this is bad.
Hey, get pato!
Johnny, thank you very much for the sub. Yeah, you missed all the combat. You're here for the part I complained about both when I played
Holy
it
shit,
and
it worked.
and when
Get her outside.
when I was starting the stream. I promise not to harp on this again though. So
Scav rats abandoning ship. Must have seen trauma. Decided to cut their losses.
Landing. Stand clear. Initiating security protocol. Follow all instructions. Place the patient on the ground. Five steps back. Now.
TT-133 to control. Patient NC570442 secured. Stimulants being administered. 70 milligrams dopamine, 110 norepinephrine, 800 fibrinogen.
So, I'm glad that you're the one to point that out, Johnny. Do you want to hear my brief rant on this? Because, like, I kind of said I wasn't going to focus on it, but because there's someone here to hear it, I can give you, like, the short version of why I sort of feel like it kind of undermines an interesting point. Let's focus on it, yeah. Okay. So, it's not entirely clear for the advertising here, but, like, there's an ad for Mr. Stud there. Obviously, Field of Chemistry. Is there another one? You can kind of see it bottoms up, just on the basically in the dead center of the screen. Wide open on the edge there. The big burrito obviously has its its phallic elements inside of it. And one of the things that I think, and again, it's important to remember, like, Cyberpunk is an old game. But one of the things that I think a lot of this is people like to bang in the future. Well, this is the thing. Like, one of the things that I think this is talking about. So number one, there is the idea of, capitalism run amok, and the ideas of what, what it takes to get attention. So in this case, the types of advertising, like, essentially what you can see is you can kind of see for this idea, like, somebody looking at Calvin Klein advertising when it, like, first kind of caused a stir, and then taking that to the logical conclusion. For those of you like Bill Hicks, he's got a routine about this where he describes a very explicit image, and, like, the punchline of the whole bit is that, like, when you are revealing the most intimate thing, there's just the slogan, "Drink Coke." I'll leave it to you to look up the actual bit. One, because I am not as funny as him, and number two, I don't know, like, I am kind of timid and innocent. But the big thing is, so, like, number one, it's the idea of an incredibly, like, basically a culture that's turned up to 11. Something that it's hard to reach through. The standards are falling away, and increasingly extreme content is being used to get people's attention. But more importantly than that, with so much focus on the flesh, it's also reinforcing this idea of cyberware. So the idea, or the sort of society's reaction to the introduction of cyberware. So the place that we were just in, and just some context in terms of why this woman was there, is we were dealing with this group of people known as scavengers. And essentially they kidnap people, they rip out their cybernetics and sort of sell it secondhand. And so I feel like in this game there is a pretty clear like, I don't think it's coincidental. I think the idea in terms of the body, the integrity of the body, what happens to us when we make these kinds of changes, that continually seems to be reinforced inside of the game. And I do think that there is a very interesting contrast in a game where, you know, some of the items that we were reading were about cyberpsychosis, people kind of going crazy because of too much augmentation, the risks brought about by numbing pain receptors, essentially cybernetics becoming a very important part of life. But in the end, so much of this advertising focusing on the flesh and this thing that is increasingly being devalued, I think there's something really interesting in that. So it's not just that you get to put dirty pictures in the advertising in the game and sell more copies. I actually think that this is reinforcing some really central ideas to the type of story that they're telling. And the problem is that I feel that really interesting idea is completely undermined when your tutorial mission, literally, as you pointed out, the nip is forever on the screen. You cannot look away from the bare breasts. And worse still, when you find this person,
Let's get out of here. Elevator.
The guy is allowed boxer shorts. And again,
Shit show's over.
I'm not trying to say,
wires now. See you in the near future.
let me see the man in all his
I
glory.
got this thing. Mind if I borrow your wheels? I got a date with Misty, but I can't take the metro. How's it gonna look for me?
Won't leave you hanging, Jack. But don't get used to it.
But yeah, like, it's basically just, I sort of feel like the game slightly cheapened itself in a way that it didn't have to, for cheap titillation. Also, we're just going to admire the soundtrack for a bit. I'm assuming the game to voice volume is pretty terrible. Should I have to lower the volume a little bit as long as you're hanging out, Johnny? I'll try to get to some combat reasonably soon, but I figure this is not a bad way to establish a level because it's a noisy part. Not bad at all? Cool. Did I get any fancy clothes? This is my guy, by the way. Don't I look handsome? So those are not an improvement. I would definitely say you would be better off not paying attention to... Is it on sale? I believe it's on sale now, so just to be clear, I cannot recall... So I am playing... Okay, so number one, we're talking about buying it, so this is the point where I will point out I was given a copy of this from, for the purposes of promotion. And I believe in this case, I should be directing your attention to GOG, which does currently have it on sale for 50%. However, I believe if it goes on sale on that site, it may mean that there are sales elsewhere. And the last thing I would want to do would be to compel someone to buy, to buy something that, at a higher price. So, I feel, if nothing else. Oh, sorry. There is actually one thing I need to do in the background really quickly. So I'm sorry to put the game on hold, but I have been downloading some game data at midnight every night, and it's actually just crossed over into midnight. So I'm going to get that work done really quick, and that means loading up a virtual machine. So, but yeah, so as always, comparison shop. Make sure you're getting the best deal that you can. However, I did accept a key for promotional purposes. So number one, that means, I am selling this thing. Corporate shilling has been noted, as you pointed out. I think it is decent for me to follow, if nothing else, the spirit, if not the letter. I know for Songs of Conquest, I'm specifically supposed to say buy at GOG. for the sake of Cyberpunk, because I'm not 100% sure on the terms under which I got it, I should say, buy it on GOG. They are the ones who gave it to me. But I also don't feel that extends to the point where I should say, if there's a better opportunity for you, don't take those opportunities. But I will leave it to your own research to decide whether or not that extra time's worth it for you. And I can just say it's 50% off on GOG, so that's $40 for me Canadian, or $39.99 or whatever. I'm hoping that keeps everyone happy. I still feel like a bit of a dink doing it that way, but I don't know. Like I'm okay pushing someone who's connected with me with a key. I think that's decent. I think doing so to the exclusion of other alternatives is not within the spirit of what some of these, guidelines are for. Okay, just got access to the VM. This should only take 3 or 4 minutes. And I'm really sorry to do this. I'd love to put it up on the broadcast, but unfortunately, while the developer's really cool about what I share and what I can share, I have not been given specific permission to sort of share the data for this game, and I am looking at sort of real-time stuff, so I am going to there's a side of me that wants to see if I can actually just do the work now, but I figure I can save that for after. The broadcast. I do need to download it though, because if I don't download it now, then I'm gonna be in a situation where I have to sort of take out the. Oh, come on. If I don't do it now, I'm going to have to clean out a bunch of nonsense. Actually, tell you what, I'm going to do a really quick break because I kind of need to go to the bathroom.